Bonjour, this is Jasmine. Thank you so much for stopping to smell the roses on Rue Madame. For those of you who are new to the neighborhood, I'm a writer, a storyteller, and a community builder. My specialty is creative writing. I love writing about culture, parenthood, politics, and my life here in France. I'm building a community on Patreon for parents, polyglots, travelers, critical thinkers, and anyone looking for their happy place. So, thank you so much for your pledge. It allows me to write full time and to uplift the people in our community. I hope you've enjoyed the Interesting Person series that we've done to highlight the visionaries, the entrepreneurs, the politicians in our own communities. Today, we are celebrating fathers. So, happy Father's Day to all the men who are parents, who are dedicated and loving to their children. So, help me welcome the gentleman today who is going to be talking about fatherhood, particularly fatherhood in the Black community. So, thank you so much for tuning in and enjoy. Thank you guys for showing up. Thank you so much. I know in 1 week it's Father's Day, so I decided to round up the fathers that I know to ask them these questions. Did you guys see the other video about the moms?
I did.
Yeah. So these questions was specific for Black fathers. So let's get started. The first question was, how are you like your father, and how do you see yourself when you're parenting your kids? How similar you are and how different you are. Can you start, Jonathan?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, my work ethic, my dad works really hard, and I get that from him. I'm like my dad in that way. But my dad, one of his biggest problems was he worked too much, and so my mom didn't work at all. We had 6 siblings, so he had to work all the time to provide. So he didn't really have a chance to invest in me like he wanted to. So I do get my work ethic from my dad, but how we differ is how much time I spent with my kids as opposed to how much he was able to spend with us when we were little. And so, though I do share his same work ethic, um, I do not share the same amount of time that he was able to invest in us
Okay.
with my kids.
Does he spend time with his grandkids more than he did with you guys?
Yeah. So he spends a lot of time with his grandkids now, especially now that he's older, now that we're older. With one person working in the house, there's only so much time that you essentially can invest. And I think most African Americans that come from certain backgrounds kind of know what it's like to always have to work hard, and
Like
maybe
a
not
blue
having
collar,
time
is
to
he like a
vacation.
blue collar worker?
Yeah, so he worked for the city for a long time,
Oh, okay.
water department. And so and then after that, to provide for 6 kids, he did
Oh,
carpentry work and
there's six of
painting.
you?
Yeah, 4 girls, 2 guys.
Oh, okay. Can everybody introduce themselves? I forgot to do that. And tell me how many kids you have and their ages. Go ahead, John.
I got 2 kids, a 6-year-old girl named Zoe and a 2-year-old son named Jonathan as well. We call him
Okay.
Maya.
Ed?
Yeah, so my name's Edward. I have one daughter. She's 5 years old, and her name is Winter.
Okay. Wow.
And I have 3 children. I have 2 girls and one son. My oldest is Chloe. She's 9 years old. My second child, Sydney. She's 6 years old. And my son, Marlo Jr., he just turned 2.
Junior. Brian? Or Brandon, I'm sorry.
That's all good. Yeah, I'm Brandon Bryant. I have one son. His name's Bravon. He's 3 years old. 3 years old. Sorry.
Okay. And Chris?
Yeah, my name is Chris. I have one son. He's 11 years old. Yeah.
And how do you see yourself in dad and how you raise your son? Do you see a lot of
How do I see
similarities?
myself?
Do you have similarities with your father and how you raising him, or
Um,
and how do you differ?
well, how I differ, I can definitely say I'm a lot more involved. Um, there are certain things from when I was a kid that I recognized in my dad that I knew I didn't want to do with my kids. My dad was not the thank you, hug you type of dad. I try very much to be very vocal with him, try to, um, I don't know, speak to him like a person and try to not to speak down on him as much as I feel like I got kind of spoken down to.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad he was very, very hard on me as far as um, kind of making me the competitive person that I am right now. And I was tough enough to take it, but I don't think my son exactly he's not the same kid that I was. I was really into sports. I was really into athletics. I was, I was an inner city kid. My son is not out of what I consider an inner city kid.
Right.
So my mentality had to change. And I'm lucky enough to be with someone who was able to educate me in a way on the different walks of parenting. Every parent, you don't have to be like your parent. You don't have to, every kid's experience doesn't have to be the same.
Right.
So I definitely differ in that way.
Is it like a consensus on the panel? Like, how much was your father involved in your upbringing? Like John said and Chris said, the father was like not necessarily always there. Is that the same for everybody? Marlo, Brandon, and Ed?
I would have, go ahead.
Sorry about that. I feel like my father more so played the disciplinarian type role, and he was also the primary breadwinner. Like he always had two jobs. So, when he was at home, typically he was asleep, I'd say, for like the first 10 years of my life. And then once they started to come into like more money and more opportunities, like he began to, repurpose his time and, spend more time with the family. But, that only lasted so long. I'd say my mother was definitely the nurturer, and she was the one who was, kind of keeping the house in order. But my dad would come home and lay the hammer down if he had to, and he always kept the lights on.
Right. Marlo?
Yeah, so my dad was definitely the disciplinary person. It was his way or the highway. I got three brothers, and everything he says to do, we better do it, or he was going to get on us. He would slap us in the head, whoop our butts, or whatever the case was. But
Capital punishment.
yeah. So I have a lot of my father ways that I had. Let me rephrase that. I had a lot of my father's ways. I didn't like the way he parented us. I have two girls, so I can't parent them the same as my dad did us. So I'm more understanding. I listen to the girls. I don't yell as much as my dad did. So there's a lot of things that he did that I said, there's no way I'm going to do that. So I definitely learned a lot from him and my mother. But yeah, my dad was definitely the disciplinary.
Is that the same for you, Brandon?
It's a little bit different. Like you had asked the question about if my father had been there, like when I was a kid, and that was his thing actually. Like he was very, very intentional about being, present, very intentional about spending time. And growing up, I saw a lot of that around me. A lot of others' kids' fathers, they weren't really around much, and they really didn't spend a lot of time. And I thank my dad all the time for kind of doing that. Is really, really trying to because a lot of my friends and the people around my neighborhood, they knew my dad because my dad would literally come to the basketball courts every day. He's sitting there playing with us up until late into the night. And we talked about what kind of things I take and how am I similar to my dad is I kind of took that upon myself I want to be like that with my son. My son's only 3. So, I mean, spending time is literally playing with the Paw Patrol, figurines and doing all that kind of stuff. But yeah, like just being really intentional about spending time. I think that's really important to me. It was really important for my dad too.
Do you think like our generation is not the same? Because all I heard from most of you is like your dad was the breadwinner, your dad was the disciplinarian. Now that our generation is more like, I don't know, open-minded, I guess, and open to changing the roles. Do you see that in your relationship, or do you think it's the same as before? John, can you?
Yeah, I do think that me seeing my dad's downfalls and seeing what I didn't want. My dad wasn't a disciplinary type. He was very calm, soft-spoken, but spoke when he needed to. So he wasn't that type. But very. But for me, I am a disciplinary type, and I'm not soft-spoken at all. And I. But I do listen to my kids. Like, I do listen to my children. I try to foster a relationship with my daughter to tell me anything that she wants. If I allow her to express her feelings, that's one thing that we weren't allowed to do just as a child in general. If your parents did something that you didn't like, who cares? It was just, you just go
Right.
through it. And so
The
just
saying, you're to be seen and not heard, was that the type of?
Yeah, all the time. Like you go over somebody else's house too. Like you got your own separate table,
Right, right,
stuff. And my kids got the same thing in that regard. So I guess I am like my dad. Like kids shouldn't
right,
be exposed to certain things, certain conversations. But
right, right.
I just think that I hear more of my kids' voice sometimes, or I allow them um, to come to me, and I hear them. I don't validate their feelings all the time if it's something that doesn't need validation to me, but I allow them to have that relationship with me where they feel comfortable with bringing to me any type of feeling that they may have.
Right. I want to switch to some of the more provocative questions. The question about, would you rather have a child that's a famous athlete who doesn't use his or her platform for social justice, or would you rather have a kid that is a civil rights leader? You have to choose which one you would prefer. Ed, can you start?
I would rather have a child who was a civil rights leader than somebody who didn't use their platform to speak on matters that needed to be spoken on. Specifically, like if it was a Black child living in America, because there are certain things in this country that I just feel like need to be addressed until they are changed or until we come up with solutions. And especially at times like this, like a certain comedian made a comment about not wanting to hear, celebrities' opinions and things of that nature. And I do agree with him to a certain degree, but there are those people who look for leadership, like in their quote unquote heroes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think like to say something is better than saying nothing. It's just a matter of what you're saying, how you're saying it, and if you actually mean it or not, and that, I think that's what's most important.
Did you guys see the recent Dave Chappelle, I don't know, skit, the 8 minutes 46 seconds thing?
Yeah,
I still didn't see it.
I watched it yesterday actually.
What did you think of it, Chris?
I mean, I thought it was typical Dave Chappelle. He's always been very conscious, very insightful, and he does it. And his comedy is always clever. Obviously, this was not a comedy skit. This was more of him, using his platform, using his voice to just highlight things in a clever way that he knows he has the attention of white America. Dave Chappelle, he definitely has the attention of white America, and I think he used that his platform to like open their eyes. You know what I mean? I do want to also answer the question that you had as far as would I rather my son be an athlete who doesn't use his platform versus a civil leader. And tell you the truth, it's an easy question. I mean, it's an easy question. Of course, I want him to be a leader. But my son personally, he is very, very soft-spoken. I can already see that he's kind of a follower in ways, you know, although he's very unique and he's okay with not fitting in with like the normal, you know, my son would never be like a athlete or anything like that. I would much rather for him to be the leader.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like every kid is different, and I would not be opposed to him being the latter. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
If that's what he decides to do, being that leader is not for everybody. Being that voice, being that you know, that pioneer, that's not for everybody.
Right.
Like there's only a handful of LeBron Jameses out there. You know, it's a lot to take on. It's a big burden to carry on your shoulders. And, you know, I applaud people that do it, but in no way, shape, or form do I expect or
Imagine if all of the NFL, all of the players took a knee at the same time as Colin Kaepernick, and how effective that would have been instead of him being the only one.
Yep.
How different do you think it would have changed anything? What do you think, Brandon?
It would have been huge. It would have been huge. I mean, that's where a lot of these leagues, I mean, that's where the money is with the players. So, I mean, Colin Kaepernick is by himself. I mean, you just got one. But, I mean, if you're shutting down games or shutting down seasons, I mean, that really has a lot of power. And I know with my son, when I talk to him about who he's going to be in the future or what I want him to be at least, it's very important to me that he has an impact outside of himself, right? Because, you know, I could sit up here and be like, yeah, show me the money. You know, you can be a huge athlete, you can be an all-star, and, you know, he doesn't use that to help anybody. I think that's a failure on my part as a parent because, you know, I want him to be, you know, have the, you know, I guess the knowledge to be able to go forward and say, you know, use whatever he's got to be able to help somebody else.
And what do you think, John? A famous athlete that doesn't use his platform or a civil rights leader? Hi guys, sorry to interrupt. Hopefully you're getting a lot of the conversation that is insightful and enlightening. If you want to see the rest of the video, head over to patreon.com, join the community on Rue Madame, and get full access to videos, early access, bonus content, and an international community. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you over there. Bye.